My philosophy on life is what you do it with everything you got.
I'm on 10, nigga, not 9. On the night I was born, the rain was pouring, God was crying, lightning struck, power outage, sparks was flying, the real one's here, the young boy that walked with lions around the outlines of chalk where the corpse is lying. Of course I'm trying to revive a sport that's dying, but the guns and the drug bars that y'all relying got these nerves thinking that you niggas hard as iron, but that just mean I ain't as comfortable as y'all with lying.
Oh, we back home.
No, I never stress.
I used to come here for like high school practices. My coach used to be like, they would reach out and be like, hey, I was getting recruited. They'd be like, hey, we want D'Angelo to come to practice today. My coach would be like, he ain't coming unless the whole team could come, because we can't miss practice. We need him in practice. The whole team would just mob to this, sit here and watch Coach Pitino cuss his players out. That's when I was like kind of scared away, like, can't go to no college like that. They ended up doing some great things. Shout out to the university, man. What's up with y'all? Good. How you doing? How's it going? You good? What's up, big dog? Yes, sir. Black sheep. Look at Bert. Look at Bert. Oh, this is sick. Yeah, bro, we could do this.
How you doing, man?
Amazing. Yourself?
Good seeing you.
Thanks for allowing us, dude.
Thanks for doing this.
Our
Appreciate
co-host.
How's it going?
The Logan.
Hey, Logan.
Nice to meet you.
How you doing?
I'm a fan of you. Everything you built on, man, for real.
Yeah,
I love to hear it, too.
We're getting this thing going.
I love it. That's what he was just telling me. I see it from the little snippets. So.
You're from?
From here, right in the backyard. Yep.
What high school are you in?
Central. I went to Central for like a year and a half, if that, and I just branched off to boarding school. Needed something a little better. I'm sure you know about that. You don't do too much recruiting in the state, right? You don't recruit in here.
Are you kidding?
I'm just telling you, y'all recruiting in Louisville. Is that your plan?
I mean, we better be on our back.
If the talent's not there, if the talent's not there, you don't have no reason to.
We're doing a Devin Booker camp, and our staff raves about him. I've never been to his camp, and we come in, and I don't remember if you remember, he takes over the camp. Remember?
Where was this?
Out
In
Phoenix.
Oh,
You were running
yeah.
around. He hit every court in 20 minutes. It was
That inspired me to do camps, honestly. Yeah, because I remember him inviting me. He was like, bro, you ain't got to come. It's just something light.
Yeah.
And I flew in for it. And I was like, bro, let's turn this up a little bit. And I've been inspired ever since. So it's dope. Appreciate you guys, too.
Yeah,
Y'all gave me a little
absolutely.
opportunity as well.
Yeah.
So, thanks.
I say all the time, like, no matter what organization you're in, no matter what business you're in, do it with everything you got with excellence. And I've known Greg for decades.
Yeah.
Decades. We go way back.
Where you
Close
from?
family friends, Cincinnati. He's from
Okay.
Middletown.
Okay. Close.
But the thing I always say about everything he touches is like there's a level of freaking excellence.
I think you got it. I can tell just from what you mentioned, that story alone, you can see and feel like a difference in a passion from somebody. And I knew right then. Well, back then I didn't know I had that. But once I got a feel and a taste from it, after that I could feel it from who I worked with, whatever I did. I was just like, I need that passion and want to do it, you know? So I've always gravitated to those people. And it's good we're here because I heard about you, man. I'm excited to
makes
sit
Poppy
down.
nervous.
Yeah,
makes Poppy nervous.
It
You
makes
two
Poppy
together
nervous.
Coach, I think we're gonna mic you up real quick and
Yep.
we can rock out.
Dude,
Hey, how you?
20 minutes.
I'm Jordan.
Hey, Pat.
I'm actually from right across the river, Cincinnati, North Kentucky.
I'm Pat.
You're over there.
You're from North Kentucky?
Yeah,
Is that close to you, NKU?
NKU?
Yeah.
So a ton of my family played there.
Yeah.
So my sister played at NKU. She was a great player. My brother played at NKU. He was a great player. He actually, I'm not bragging on him, but like, they were D2 at the time. He had 26 at Kentucky.
At Kentucky.
At Kentucky.
We got to pull up that for sure.
And I think he had like 21 and a half, and then Rondo like clamped him in the second half. Because they didn't scout the
Rondo.
game. They're like, we're going to crush these guys.
Romel Bradley. I remember all those dudes.
And he had 50 in a college game.
At NKU.
At NKU. 50.
Wow, I've probably heard of him. And I just I can't.
What's
see
his
the
name?
His name was Mike Kelsey.
Mike Kelsey.
And then my brother-in-law played there. He's the greatest free throw shooter in the history of the NCAA. He's the only guy to shoot over 100 for the season and make every one.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
At NKU.
At NKU.
Bro, these are
Paul
all
Cluxton?
NKU legends.
Oh, yeah. Greatest free throw shooter in the history of the NCAA.
Is
Never
he a
be broken.
shooter or he just could shoot free throws?
Shooter. He led the
Okay.
country in three-point shooting,
Okay,
too.
okay.
I think he shot 51% from three.
That's impressive.
Now, he couldn't guard that chair right there.
Sound like me.
Neither could my brother. My brother scored 50 in that game. The guy who's guarding had 44.
That's me for
was
sure.
+6.
They were going
My
at
dad
it.
used to say that. He'd be like, man, you can score, but you gonna let them score too? Like, man, ain't nothing I can do, pops.
I feel like I've probably heard of those names before. I went to NKU and I loved their basketball program. You remember if Beazle was a coach back then?
It was, yeah.
Beazle.
That's what he played.
One of my good buddies is his son. So I went when the first year they transitioned to D1.
Okay.
That's when my first year at the campus. So yeah, they had that turn because then they went to the tournament and all that, and they played UK. It was crazy.
Now tell me about your guys' connection and partnership.
We're rolling. This is how we go. We literally sit down and go.
No, but
But
like,
we still chop it up. Yeah.
where'd you guys? What's the
Oh.
connection? Where'd you guys?
NKU.
NKU.
Yeah,
My
his
brother.
brother went to NKU, and I met him the very first day I walked on campus. I'm from a real small town, so NKU was huge to me.
Okay.
I pulled up to campus, played basketball, and here's his brother. At the time, I didn't know, and he's killing. He's playing some like fly knit like shoes. I'm like, bro, I like your shoes, and like came boys. We were just boys from the jump, and then that's kind of how it all started.
Did he play there?
My brother, no, he stopped playing after high school. I was in the league. He was still in college. And for him to leave school to come join me in LA was like a big deal. He didn't want to leave school.
Right.
He was just now elevating in work, like
Yep.
he was getting a job, he was meeting his group of friends, he was doing the college thing, and I was like, bro, I need you to come with me. And I remember him, I was like, I would need a video guy, like I want to do this videography thing, I want to bring my own team with me, like starting young, and I could never get someone to commit. And he was like, I got a guy, but you don't know him. I don't really know him, but I know he's into that too. And we ended up meeting one time, and we hit it off from there, and we've been working together ever since. And we created this podcast, we created everything. So just, I don't know, finding the passion. I knew he had it, and we worked with it.
It's awesome.
Yeah, man. Like I said, this is how we do it. We like to make it as authentic as possible. Him running around scrambling is a part of our authenticity.
Yep.
We watch all the podcasts and we see sports show, whatever, and we see the setup and the structure trying to be to a T. And we just love this authenticity. We want the door slam. We want, it makes you comfortable. I'm already comfortable just from the energy that I'm getting right now from everybody in here. So like, we don't like to stop it and go and cut and make it all scripted. So we like to dive into it. I want to thank you again for allowing us to come to your space and be a part of your motion, man. Congratulations on the job. Obviously, your office was bigger than you was expecting, but I'm sure you'll fill that up with everything you bring to the university, from the passion, the energy you bring. Obviously, I've talked to Peyton a little bit. He's talking about how the guys and everybody's getting better already. That's a different thing here. I've been here since like 6th, 7th grade. I've been seeing coaches and players come and go. And I just was never, I respectfully say this, I was never a fan of it because of the structure around it. Just going through my recruiting process and just hearing what he just gave me, just a little snippet of you, I was like, I probably would have came here after hearing that. And so I just want you to kind of break it down for us, man. Obviously, for the people that don't know, just give us a little something, man. We won't take too much of your time.
You know, I just talked to a group of campers,
Love that.
right, out there. And a couple of my new players were standing there listening to me talk to this group of 30, 40 campers.
Mm-hmm.
And as I addressed the campers, you know, like my heart's beating fast.
Love that.
And I'm
Feel it.
raising my voice and I'm leaning
Excited.
forward, right? And I get down on the ground as I'm making my points. And they told me I had 5 minutes, and like usual, I go over and went 7 or 8.
I like that. That's me.
But as I walked off, they were looking at me like, Coach, you're crazy. And I just said, fellas, my philosophy on life is what you do it with everything you got. It doesn't matter if it's today at 3 o'clock when we have our last June workout of the first half of the summer, or I'm talking to 30 kids I've never met before from lower socioeconomic backgrounds that are here for this special experience to learn life lessons. They're going to get everything I got. That doesn't mean I'm perfect, but you know, relentless effort, going about your business with a passion, with everything you got is what I'm about.
Where does that come from? Like, when was that? Is that instilled from you as a kid, or like how did you get that sort of passion?
Yeah, I mean,
When
I think
did you know? And when did you know? Sorry.
we all have strengths and weaknesses.
Yep.
We all have faults. I say all the time, I got the short end of the stick in intelligence and in looks. There was a longer line that beat me to the punch when it came to that stuff. But when it comes to energy, I was at the front of that line. Somehow, some way, the Lord put his hand on me and said, we're going to make this guy make coffee nervous. As he's talked about before.
I never heard that one. I like that.
So I don't have to try to be that way. That's just kind of who I am. That's my DNA. That's what I'm all about. I'm a big believer in being true to who you are and not trying to be who somebody else is. I think you'll be a bad version of that person. I always use Brad Stevens as an example. Like, holy cow, man, one of the best coaches in the history of our game, and he had this calmness about him on the sidelines and this stoic nature. And I'm not saying I'm crazy on the sidelines or anything like that, but if I tried to be him, I'd be a bad version. He'd probably be a bad version of me. I always say, Billy Shakespeare said, "To thine own self be true." You know what I mean? There was I look at podcasts like stuff like this, and I saw forget the guy's name. I think it's Francis Davis. And he's a civil rights leader. He actually lives in Utah, and he gave the commencement speak at the University of Utah a couple years ago. And he was from an underprivileged background, didn't have much, very, very poor growing up. And he said his mom said something when he was a kid that's resonated with him his whole life, and it kind of goes back to being true to yourself. And her saying was, be who you is and not who you ain't. Because if you ain't who you is who you ain't.
Like
now,
you, Bill.
That might not make a lot of sense to a lot of people. To me, it's like, be who you are.
For sure.
You know, and that's kind of who I am, an energy guy.
He's been that, since I met him, he's always been like, be you, be you, be you, be you. And I even got it tatted on me because it's like that just instills so much. Just like, just be yourself. You ain't gonna be nothing you're not. And we did a foundation meeting for his foundation yesterday. And that's one thing that we hit on heavy, was just being yourself. So that connection there, it's ironic.
It's all irony in that when you find it. I don't know really where to go with this this kind of episode, because I don't want to take too much of your time, but I feel this. And if I was a recruit, I would feel this. And I remember I didn't go on no official visits. I only went on one. I went to Ohio State. And when I went on my visit, I felt this. And I was like, you can't be lying to me when this is how you act. There's no way you turn that off when you leave here. And Thad Matta's the same way. Like, he has this energy that brings this positiveness that's you never go down from that. It's all in the most doggest moments where you have no feeling of winning. There's no light at the end of the tunnel when he finds a way to do something, say something positive, and then you just see everybody just kind of shift. And I was just like, I need that. Is that your pitch to these kids that come in to recruit? You just kind of be you in front of them and let their parents and the people that AAU coach they come with kind of feel you off first, and then you let that disperse through? Or what's your way of doing that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. It's obviously phone calls are one thing, Zoom calls are another thing, text messages are another thing, but when you have a chance to lock eyes with somebody, meet with them one-on-one, to spend time with them on those official visits, I think it is important to be genuine who you are and have them feel you. You know, I say all the time, I'm about three things: my faith, my family, and hoop. My faith, my family, and hoop. My faith, my family, and my hoop. I don't have the bandwidth between my ears to handle a lot of other things and be good at them. I wish like crap, D-Lo, that I was good at golf, but I think. Now, guys like my guy back here, who's my brother, you know, he's unbelievable at networking and building relationships, and I know a ton gets done on the golf course. Sure. I stink, so I find other ways to do it, but I make sure that they know first and foremost who I am. Everybody's gonna have pretty buildings, right? Everybody's gonna have a beautiful campus. Everybody at this level that we're recruiting against has beautiful practice facilities and unbelievable arenas, but by the way, I think ours is better. Everybody has passionate fan bases. I think Louisville Cardinal fan bases is nasty and passionate as there is.
I like that.
But, you know, so many times it's the relationship relationship with the head coach.
Yeah. And the same. Sorry, like I don't mean to cut you off, but like Ohio State, they got 10 coaches on the staff, and one's going here, one's going there, and the head coach was there to recruit me. Obviously, I was a top recruit, but it was just like I felt that there was a need there, not just a want.
Yeah.
And you can feel that with you right now. Whatever you're doing, you can feel there's a want to do, not a have to do.
Yeah.
And I respect that a lot about
I
you,
appreciate
man.
that.
Sure.
But it is. You just got to be genuine.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And sometimes they rock with you, sometimes they don't. I'm not for everybody. But, you know, I appreciate you making that comparison to Coach Mata because, man, he's one of the great coaches of this generation for sure. And he coached at Xavier for quite a while, and I played at Xavier and coached there for a while. So I know a lot of people that were in the inside while he was there. I never played for him and never coached with him. But you hear about that all the time. It's his ability to get above the clouds, to get above the craziness and the messiness and the adversity of the season. Because my mentor, Skip Prosser, used to say all the time, the season's a lifetime.
Weather it.
You got to weather storms, man. There's ups, there's downs. He used to say good things happen, bad things happen, babies are born, people die. I never knew why he said that, but he would say that all the time. And I think my job as a leader, and it sounds like Coach Mata was that way, it was his ability to stay stable throughout all that. Fans, right? That's short for fanatics. Fans are supposed to get high with the high and lows with the lows. I do that with the Cincinnati Bengals and Reds, right? But when it comes to Louisville basketball, I know how passionate people are about this deal. But it's my job to come in every day, regardless if we're on a 5-game winning streak or we lost a game.
Right.
It's my job to maintain the excellence in what we're doing that day. I love this, and somebody told me this a while ago. Friend of mine, he said, my job as a leader, he's a headmaster of a major school and a head basketball coach. I don't even know if I can mention him from a compliance standpoint, but he knows who I'm talking about when he watches this. World-class human being, unbelievable coach, runs a major school and runs one of the best basketball programs in the country.
Sound like my bird to me. But go ahead.
I'm not going to name names because I don't want to call anybody out. He said, look, my job as the headmaster and the head coach here is not to be the CEO. Right? The chief executive officer is the person that runs an organization, holds people accountable, all that stuff. You got to spin a million plates, which the head basketball coach at the collegiate level of a Power 5 school has to now, especially in this new world with NIL and with transfer portal. And I mean, a whole new dimension's been added to it. So yes, you have to spin all those plates, but more than the CEO, my job is to be the CRO. And the CRO is the chief reminder officer. And it's my job to remind everybody in an organization every day, regardless of the goods, the bads, the ups, the downs, remind them what the standard is. You know, people ask me at my press conference, like, well, what do you do? What are you going to do? We're going to be great at the next thing we do. We're going to be great at the next thing we do.
So cliche. It might go over the folks' head, but that's so powerful.
But it's hard.
Exactly.
It's hard to keep that standard. It's hard to stay positive and have a great energy about you when the adversity's hitting and the bullets are flying at you.
I've throughout my time, the older I've got, the people I've crossed paths with, I've learned how to recognize the adversity about to come and recognize people getting too high before the adversity. And when you get that high, eventually you're gonna, and I just try to, whatever I do, stay this even kill.
Love it.
So through, funny story, through free agent, trade deadline this year, right? There was a point where I didn't really want to be where I was, just because of the distractions and the ability to do what I wanted to do, right? And it became a point where the whole world was talking about me, and my whole team was stressed, and I'm still playing Call of Duty at night, showing up for work. Didn't have the energy that I wanted, but I was just like, I wasn't phased, you know? And I told my people, I'm like, if I'm not stressed, y'all shouldn't be stressed. I know what's coming. And the storm was weathered. They stopped talking about me, and I started playing the best basketball of all my life. And I went from being the biggest tradable asset to, we can't trade them now. And I knew that was gonna come because, one, I didn't want to be there. And I don't want to go all through this, but I'm just saying, you bringing me to that. It all changed once I kept my mind right to weather that storm. and we took off from there, and I'm still on this cloud. Even though the season's not going, I'm still like, you can't tell me nothing. Like, I know what I'm capable of. I know this adversity is gonna happen again, and I'm gonna be ready for it again. So
I love what you're saying. And
Man.
isn't it crazy how it's all relative? Mm-hmm. It's all relative. Like whether you're in sports and in coaching, whether you're a professional athlete, whether you're a businessman, whether you're running a family, personal, like, adversity's coming.
Yep.
Sure, it's life.
Embrace it head on.
And we all have crosses to bear. We all have things that we're dealing with. And, you know, it's just taking on those challenges and continuing to move forward with the right mentality.
This is powerful.
You're speaking my language, man.
Listen, I know we're here. I know we are here just from that what he just mentioned. I seen something, and I want to know where that came from in practice when the shoe comes off like that, coach. Like, where do you get this energy to, like, I gotta do something about this before you do? Where does that come from? Feel free if you want to taste that.
Coaches are different birds now, man. We are some weird cats.
Love that.
We're all wired different ways. There is an honor among thieves, at least there should be. So we have this brotherhood and this camaraderie, and we go out on the road, and now we try to tear each other's face off during the winter, and Wednesdays at 7 and Saturdays at 2. But we all have different things that make us tick. There's different ways to skin a cat, run your program, to lead and organize, and there's different things that drive each of us nuts. And one of mine is when your stinking shoe comes off.
Why?
I don't know. It's just like, tie your freaking shoes.
Is it they're playing
It just drives
too
me
hard,
nuts.
and you're like, I got.
No, it's tie your shoes.
Okay.
Now, some guys like to not play with them too tight.
Yeah.
So I forget who was it a couple years ago that basically plays almost without tying them.
DeRozan.
That was it.
Yep.
And I'm like, how in the crap do you do that?
I seen that too, and he ties them all loose, and he. Just
Now, if I have a DeMar DeRozan and that dude is a dude,
Yeah.
and he don't want to tie his shoes very tight, and his shoe comes off, I'll probably still run over like I do in practice and throw it out the door. Or if we're at the Young Center, I'll throw it up and he'll go get it. But if he's going to play at that level, it can come off. But it's still going to drive me nuts. So those guys know it drives me nuts. So funny story. I don't know if you've seen this, and you can see it online. It was College of Charleston last year put it on social media. I still hoop.
Okay.
Love that.
I'm getting to my story here in a second. I still hoop. I'm 49. I'll be 50 next year. I can't do it in the duration that I do, but I jump in the scout team.
I like
Not
that.
always, but sometimes I don't like how that scout team point guard's running the stuff. Get out. I got it.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm going to knife some dudes with some back cuts.
That's me.
And I'm going to tell them about it a little bit.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was one of those practices where, like, I'm in. And then once I get in, I'm competing.
Can't get out.
My heart's beating fast. Like, so I go to, boom. I go right to left. Bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
And I cut. My shoe comes off.
Uh-oh.
They was on your head.
They probably didn't react. No one
Did
reacted.
they react? They went nuts.
Oh, okay.
The entire team sprints, and like I try to get it before they do, and some dude gets it. And I'm
Takes
like,
you out.
here we go. And we were in the practice gym. So the rule is you throw it up into the stands.
I love that.
So they all run out the gym. It's in the middle of practice. I'm chasing after them. They go out and they throw that thing.
Gotcha.
I felt like that big. So.
But y'all this tight though as a group. That's what I like, man.
You know what, man? You gotta just like that. We go hard, man.
Yeah.
And we compete and we go at it. And my standard is crazy high. But you know what else we do? We have fun.
That's what it's about.
We have fun. I mean, it's not a party there every day, but stuff like that. It's a long grind. And kids are different than they were in the past. You can't coach the way you did 20, 25 years ago.
Right?
You got to make sure that off the floor, and sometimes even on the floor, you make them laugh every once in a while. Mm-hmm. They got to know that you're approachable, that they can come see you, they can talk to you. We can chop it up. We can sit down and have a meal. Now, you go out there and you screw up ball screen coverage, I'm going to stink and tell you about it.
I know that's right. How much is your game, your practice plan similar to your game plan during the game?
It's a great question.
You know?
That's a great question. We play fast, we practice fast.
Okay.
We play fast, we practice fast. I've evolved a little bit as a coach. So one thing we do at the beginning of our practice, we call it walk through, talk through, jog through, talk through, jog through, screen through. And that 15 minutes.
Raises the intensity.
Well, not so much. What that does is I'm going to install and implement and make my teaching points before practice of what's going to be the emphasis for that day.
And if you mess them up.
And it's a little bit more of a coaching clinic for those 15 minutes where they're listening and they're da-da-da-da-da. Once we warm up and practice starts, it's going.
Love that.
We're going to play fast. We're going to practice fast. Like, we're going to make our points as coaches, but we're going to make them fast. We'll clean stuff up later on tape.
I like that.
We're going to compete every day. That's a big word in our program, compete.
I didn't know how to compete when I was early in my career. I just didn't. Like, I didn't know what that competitiveness looked like, meant like, practice like, prepare like. And we just did a podcast with Devin Booker, and we talked about where did that come from? Because he's a guy that brought it to my attention, and he's the ultra competitive that he is. And I remember him just throughout our childhood, we met each other at a young age, and he used to always do these little things. I was competitive, but I didn't know how to compete when I didn't feel like I had a chance or an advantage. Like, I just didn't want to take that approach. I've grown out of that, but I remember him being like that from the jump. Obviously, his dad played pro, and it was instilled in him, and he had that. And I wondered, like, is he acting like this? Is he acting like I threw a rock and he's like, I got to throw it further? Or if he's in the bathroom, he's like, I'm going to be here longer. And it's like, but he wasn't. That's him, and it's still him, and it's still him. And we thought it was a front, and we talked about it. We dug and he opened it up about it. And it's just like, bro, that's why we are like this, bro, because you have what I have. But you brought it out of me and made me better at the same time. And I asked you that question because I had a high school coach. He also coached Rondo, and he was rah, rah, rah in practice, like rah, rah, rah in film, rah, rah, rah in the weight room. And then when the game started, he was shh. And it was like, how do you turn that on, turn it off? And he's like, I prepare you guys
That's it.
to do what
that.
I preach, so I don't have to preach. And it works.
That's funny you say that, because, you know, when I made the Brad Stevens analogy, I said he's so stoic on the sideline, and it is funny, and especially maybe the last several years, I've evolved as a coach where I am much more reserved on the sideline. Like,
During the games.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we tell our point guards, man, like,
Especially.
I want to give you the ball at 7 at night. Give it back to me safe and sound at 9.
Yep.
You know, I mean, in my career, and coached some great point guards. CP. I was with him his 2 years at Wake Forest. You know, Ish Smith played 15,
Were you with
16
James
years.
Johnson?
James Johnson.
Are you kidding
I
me?
recruited James. James like a son to me. He watches this. JJ, I love you.
Yes.
To this day,
He's
I still
supposed to
tell
be
him
here.
I love you. I just FaceTimed with him last week. Man, you talk about a kid with a great heart.
What? The most givingest guy I've ever met.
Huge heart.
What?
Will do anything for you. Will give you the shirt off his back.
My brother. Show.
Love JJ.
Yep. That's crazy.
At 6'8", whatever he is, 2-something, 50, he can do a standing backflip. Do you know that?
I know James.
You
I
know he
lived
can
with him.
run at that wall and like flip off the wall and do a backflip?
Dude, I know this dude, bro. I lived with him for maybe 2 or 3 months during COVID before I knew who he was. And I learned everything I know now about him. And I've learned a lot from him, but I was like, this dude is a character, man. He's got
He's at Wake his first year, and it wasn't NIL, and he doesn't come from much, right? And my first daughter Ruthie's born, and it was 2 weeks after Skip Prosser died. And D'Lo, I don't know if you know that name, but he's one of the most respected coaches from the 90s and 2000s as there was in college basketball. He died tragically of a heart attack in the basketball office at Wake Forest in 2007. And Skip recruited James as the head coach. I was the assistant. Jeff Teague was in that same class. They were there for summer school, going into their freshman year. James is over in the cafeteria with Jeff and some of the other players at lunch. Skip just got back from a recruiting trip, went out for a jog, and died in the coach's office. Wow. And James, I just remember when they told us that day, because they rushed him to the hospital, I just remember, Skip was like a father to me, man. He was my college coach. He brought me into coaching, and I'm just crying like a baby, and that kid just There's a bunch of people. He gets out of the way. He just comes and he just hugs me
No, you needed that
for about
man.
5 minutes. My daughter's born 2 weeks later, and James didn't have anything. He buys my daughter these big teddy bears and stuff like that. Like
Powerful.
a great heart.
I'm glad he got his moment right here, man, because he's supposed to be here for the camp. Obviously, he's probably got something going on. He just texted me. But that dude took me in when I got to Minnesota. We were there together, and it was just like, bro, you're like we're like the same. Like, I feel what you feel. We don't react and react the way, but I see and feel what you feel, bro. Then my brother for life.
Yeah, that's
will
awesome.
be my brother for life, for sure, man.
I feel how you talk about people. D'Angelo says this saying a lot. It's always like good comes to good, and like just your energy and how you've talked about with Greg when he walked in, talk about JJ and all these guys. Like you could just tell and feel like how good of a person you are, and I feel like that's probably why you have all these people around you that are so great and so high level. I can see how recruits would be attracted to that because good comes to good.
Appreciate
you just
that.
Feel that energy for sure.
I think that one of those moments in my life, like when we lost Skip, my perspective changed a lot. And I've just been a person since then that makes sure the people in my life that I care about know how much I care about them. You know, like
Powerful.
probably to that point in my life, my dad knew I loved him more than life itself, and I know he loved me more than life itself, but we weren't really always saying I love you. Like I tell him every time I see him I love him. I tell that guy right there, that's my brother, I tell him I love him.
Yep.
My players know I love them. So
Powerful, man.
yeah.
Dude, this feels like church, bro. I don't even know, like, this. I haven't felt this one in a pod. We've done a few. We've collabed with some coaches, and I always want to ask her why. You don't even have to tell me. Like, I really feel it, and I could guess it, man. And it's definitely inspiring, man. We're gonna leave here, and I'm gonna bring this passion to my campers today, man. I wanna give them the best day ever, but I always feel that way. So we can relate in that sense. I want to shift to basketball. For y'all team this year, obviously you're the new head coach at Louisville. There's a new head coach at Kentucky. What, for the fans out there and the recruits out there, would be the reason that they should come here versus Kentucky? Because back then it was no comparison. It was like, we got to go to Kentucky. We try to go to the league. And you're like, Pitino's a Hall of Fame coach. Why wouldn't you come? So you couldn't lose. But now it's like, you have this passion, this energy, and this is the heart of the city. Look, Kentucky's not the heart of the city. This is the heart of the city right here. So for you, like, what do you feel like is going to be the difference other than what?
No,
you're giving
that's
us
a great
now?
question. My philosophy is never to recruit negatively toward another school. I'm never going to say why you shouldn't go somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'm going to spend all my energy, all my time, all my passion on why you should come here.
That's fair.
Right?
That's fair.
So I don't think I would ever, whether you mention, Kentucky or whether you mention UCLA, no matter, I'm never going to say you shouldn't go there because you should come here. What we have to sell is enough. Like,
such a
this is
great
one of the most
answer.
passionate fan bases in the country. It's one of the greatest traditions in all of college basketball. I believe in our administration. I believe in the vision of this place moving forward. There's so many great things to sell about the University of Louisville.
Huge.
And listen, I take pride in this. Like, when I say we, my staff, I did it the hard way. You know, I mean, we started, obviously I coached at the Power 5 level for 10 years at Wake and at Xavier as the associate head coach there. But, we paid our stinking dues.
Yeah.
You know,
You brought your whole staff?
The majority of it, yes.
Okay.
Our staff came, we added people from the outside
that,
as well.
love
But, the one thing that does sting, and it's fine, we talk about how competitive this business is. Like, people are always trying to, right, recruit against you and negatively recruit against you. We're not going to do that. Whether it's someone saying, man, he's been at the mid-major level. He coached at Winthrop. We crushed it there. Man, he's been at the mid-major level. He went to the College of Charleston. We turned it into a top 25 program.
Talk to him.
Right? I coached at the Power 5 level. I've coached a ton of NBA players and pros. Like, I love when you get that stuff where somebody's telling another recruit, well, he ain't
Right.
coached at the Power 5 level.
Right.
He ain't coached enough pro. Bring it.
Great answer. I like that.
Bring it.
I
If
would
I'm
try
a
to
high,
talk
if
you.
I'm a A major guy, if I'm a big time point guard, I want to play for PK. I want to plug into that energy.
Yeah.
I've done my homework. I see how fast they play. I see the freedom with which they give their guards. I see. Bring it.
Love that. Man, I would
Sell the positives of your school and not try to create negatives for someone else. Bring it. I don't know. Sometimes I get fired up when I start.
I love that. I wasn't trying to get you to say nothing crazy. I was just curious because
you mentioned the rivalry in this state. It's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's what college basketball is all about.
Yep.
You know, rivalries are rivalries because one team wins sometimes and the other team wins sometimes. We got to start doing our part. I get that.
I hear you.
I get that. Ton of respect for Mark. I know maybe Louisville people watching this deal, and it's like, man, you're not allowed to compliment them. But Mark's a good coach.
Yeah.
He done it the hard way, right?
Mm-hmm.
He done it at a mid-major level and worked his way up. So
I just remember, the only reason I was saying it, and I kind of mentioned it when we were standing here, like when I was kind of growing up, there was not a thing to kind of recruit in the city. So I didn't know if that was a thing, and I didn't know if talent was a reason or what, but like I didn't feel that love getting recruited while I was here. So I didn't know how that worked. And there's obviously talent right outside.
No,
of the
man,
city
you gotta start with your breadbasket.
That's fair.
You know, I learned that. Chris Mack was a guy that I worked for at Xavier. He was a coach here. He's one of the best coaches
He was here for a
in the
short
country.
time, right?
What's that?
He was here for a short time.
Yeah, he was
right?
here, and I just remember he used to say that all the time. Like, you know, that word breadbasket. You gotta own your backyard, right? You gotta recruit this basketball crazy state. There's tons of talent here. You got to start inside and work your way out for sure.
I love that.
When you're recruiting, what is something like you look for in a kid and you're like, maybe it's mentality or how they play or what, like you talk about guards a lot. Like what is it that you're like, nah, I need him?
With the guards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think, we could talk transfer portal in a little bit where you look at certain metrics in new age basketball. And I know maybe I say metrics, you're like, oh my gosh.
It's just transfer portal? Come on, guys.
No. So what I'm saying is there's certain, if you're looking at the transfer portal, there's certain metrics that you look at that fit what you fit, okay? Now, with grassroots recruiting in high school, you don't have those type of statistics and things like that. It's more, right? It's more gut. It's more watching. It's, but these are standards outside those, the length, the athleticism, the how tough, how competitive, basketball IQ. Do you make people around you better? Mm-hmm. And are you adaptable? What's adaptable? Can you go get it?
Yeah.
Can you go make a play when you need to have one? How tough? How competitive? Basketball IQ. Do you make people around you better, right? Do people like playing with you? Do you make people around you better? Do you make people around you better in the locker room, right? Are you speaking our language? Are you about what we're about? Those 5 things are really big for us.
I was 3 of those 2. I was not getting recruited. I was not a tough kid. Like I was not diving on the floor for the ball. Like I didn't know nothing about that.
Yeah.
I was getting that when I was going through my public high school. I had Rondo's coach, and he gave me that. I wasn't competitive. Like I was competitive, but I didn't know how to compete with that little fast guard that's also going to Florida that I got to guard because I'm the other guard that's going to Ohio State. Like I didn't know how to compete there. I was just like, I'm gonna win, and if he scores 30, I'm gonna score 40. You know,
right.
So I did it that way. So I couldn't imagine now I'm a completely different player, but I was unaware of those things. I didn't know those could steer coaches a different direction. You know, so that's huge especially for the kids.
Yeah, I mean, in like toughness is different ways.
Yeah.
Toughness isn't always just going running through that wall
Right.
for a loose ball.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's, part of his resiliency, it's mental toughness,
I had
it's being
that,
able
though.
to be good in big moments. I'm sure you wanted the ball in your hands when it mattered the most, didn't you? That's tough.
Sure. Yep. And I've seen
That's
over
tough.
the years guys not want that ball.
Yeah.
And act like they want it.
Yeah,
But it's like, you don't really want that ball.
There's been books written on toughness. There's a lot of, but there's,
It's cool, man.
and you can learn to be
develop those
competitive,
things.
right?
Yep,
You can learn to be competitive.
That's why I give books so much credit, because I thought that was an act, but really that's who he was, and it helped me develop. You gotta have some more of that, and we just pushed each other so much, man. So
I've had quiet, stoic guys that were, that were tough as nails.
yeah,
But there's just so much that goes
So
into it. I think the other part is like, in today's day and age, you can't, once you get a kid, this is reality. You can't, if a guy's got, sore ankle, you can't say to a kid, get out there and fight through it. You can't do that.
yeah.
You can't.
You gotta want that.
So I think it's important to realize before a kid gets there, like, what type of toughness do they have in that regard. You know what I mean? If you have a hangnail, you can get out there and play.
How do you balance that? Like, because nowadays there's so many kids on so many different sides of like the spectrum. You got all this, and then you got a whole roster full of them. So like, how do you look at this guy and get the best out of him, but then see this guy over here and make sure we're getting the best?
That's a great question. I just think that's leadership, right? It's realizing that everybody's different. You have different buttons that need to be pushed to make you the best you can be. That you might be a guy that, you know, if you get after you and raise your voice, you shut down.
Yeah.
You might be a guy that's what gets you going. You know, I do think more than anything, especially in today's day and age, and we try to do this, man. It's you have to have the utmost respect for your players. You cannot disparage players. You cannot embarrass players, right? You can't. I think that's really, really important. But you need to be able to coach them hard. But you know, there's no reason to have to demean someone. This doesn't make me better or worse than anybody else. It doesn't. I try not to cuss in front of my players. I don't have anything wrong with everybody in this, you know, and I'll throw those around when I'm not around my players. But just maybe to show a little bit of discipline. I can coach you without having to do that. And I think parents sometimes appreciate that a little bit. Not that it matters, but it's just one little thing that I try to do. That, hey, man, I can get my point across. I can coach guys up without that.
I like that. It's little things like that like, I feel like maybe the player you may not pick up on right then, but then you look back in like 2, 3, 4 years, whenever it was, and you're like, wow, that was coach.
Isn't it amazing that happens a lot?
Yeah.
Where you'll call a coach maybe that was pushed you and it was hard on you, or somebody in your life, you look back and you're like, and then you see that person, you're like, man, I appreciate you did that for me.
Sure.
You talk about making a coach's heartbeat fast. When you talk to a former player that maybe, I have an 8-page letter from a guy named Brandon Vega, who was my first point guard that I signed at Winthrop. He's a junior college kid that tore his ACL his second day on campus.
8 pages.
Sat out the whole year. We signed an incoming freshman point guard that beat him out. The kid was second string, ended up transferring, and we were like this. But I was the CRO. I reminded him every day, Brandon, this is the standard. Like, you got beat out. Kick his butt tomorrow at practice. Have a great attitude. He ended up transferring and going somewhere else. Wrote me an 8-page letter. I still have it. It's one of my greatest, this was 5, 6, 7, 8 years later. It's one of my greatest treasures in coaching. It's like, and I read it and he's like, man, what I'm going through now in life, the success I've had, he's a published author. He's a professional speaker. He's from a very, very bad neighborhood in Miami. He's overcome all that. And just to know I had a little part of that, come on, man.
Yeah.
It's freaking awesome.
No, that's all you need, man. Kudos to you for that, for real. I just remember my high school coach saying that to we had a high school coach that was a life coach, a dad, a disciplinary, and whatever. Like Bibby felt every hat you could possibly think of. And I remember he used to just give these lectures about, you're gonna appreciate me when you leave more than you will now.
Yeah, that's it.
And when you come back, you'll thank me. And he used to always say that, and I used to be like, that's so arrogant to say, or that's so cocky. Like, I just didn't hear it through the right hearing. But I remember him saying that, and now looking back, that's all.
If you had to give your 18, 19, 20-year-old self advice right now in terms of your approach to life, to basketball, your career,
be you. Only because, like I said, I knew what I wanted. I knew how I was gonna get there. I knew what I needed to not do to get there. And I was so aware of myself. I knew if you gave me an inch, I'd take a mile. I knew if everybody wasn't touching the line, most likely we got to run again because I didn't touch the line. Like, I knew I was this guy that I was talented though, and I straddled the line of discipline and getting away with, and I recognized that. So I was like, once you realize the structure you need to be where you want to be, don't look back from there. And I remember vividly a moment where I wasn't sure what was next. I know I wanted to be an all-star guard. This is my second year in the league. I just got traded to Brooklyn. And one of my coaches, before I left, I was in LA, one of my coaches said, listen, Lo, go there and be you. Don't be who you think they want you to be. They came and got you. Like, they traded all these guys, took on some terrible contracts just to come get me. And I wasn't even sure of myself yet. I was still trying to figure me out. And he was like, go there and be you. And I'm an artsy guy. I like to talk. I'm high IQ. I like to talk basketball. I love film. I'm a junkie when it comes to basketball. But I also have this, I'm a straddle the line. If we got to run 17s, I might not touch the line. Like, I just knew that was me, and I was aware of it. And then from that point on, I was just like, I'm going to be me as I can. I'm going to just be me as I can and live with the results. And I've had some success since then. But recognizing it was the key component for me.
It's awesome.
Yeah, man.
When you say artsy guy, like what do you mean? Like what do you?
Arts. I might come to practice when you say, "This is the attire we're wearing today." This is the attire. My shirt might be unbuttoned. I might have mismatched socks just because my shoestrings might have been.
Right.
I'm James Johnson, like how he was. He was a little extreme, but that was me, and the coaches that.
But see, man, like I love that, because when you ask me, like, what are your standards that you look at? And it's a bop, 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 and you said I'm 3 of those. Everybody's not all 5.
Facts.
Mm-hmm. And
But
if you're not all 5, sometimes you grow in a certain area. Like, I could name a bunch of them. Like, JJ.
Yep.
JJ, tell you right now, he had his flaws and he had his faults. Like,
but the coaches that see through it and allow them to be them, you allow that person to fly. Obviously, you have this discipline and you structure and you want everybody to be this. But there's going to be.
You got to let them be who they are.
And I tell this story so much. I got to Golden State, and Steve Kerr, he was mentioning Steph Curry. And when he first got there, Mark Jackson got fired. He got the job. And he was like, I was like, when did you know Steph was Steph and you got to let him be Steph? He's like, in practice. He used to shoot these crazy shots, go down the lane. He had a layup and he'd shoot as high as he could. He'd go the opposite way and shoot it all the way. And it was like, pulling my hair out watching him do it, but then I realized he's different. I have to let him fly, or he won't be who he wants to be and who he can be. And he was the first player I ever really saw be that, and I had to let him do it.
Yeah.
So,
I think, like, you look at our offensive approach. And I say all the time, the beauty's in the randomness.
yes.
Letting guys play with freedom, giving them certain constraints for guys based on what their strengths and weaknesses are. But man, that's a fun way to play.
Powerful too.
It's powerful. Yep. Here's a funny story on just that, on that confidence. So I played at Xavier, but I missed 1,000 points by 812.
Sheesh.
So I wasn't a great player. I was the captain for 2 years. I had my role.
That's a nice way of saying that.
Yeah. So the 1 year I played a lot, and we weren't very good, and we just went into the Atlantic Tennis way back in the early 90s, mid 90s. And then, Xavier starts growing. James Posey came there. James. We got really good. We were top 10 in the country, so my playing time went way down. I became a scout team guy. I was Allen Iverson.
Yeah.
Do you know how much confidence and swagger and belief and just I played with during that scout for those 4 days?
What?
Do you know who could guard me?
Nobody.
I was cooking dudes.
For sure.
And telling them about it. I just remember thinking, like, dang, that's powerful.
Sure.
Can you put that in a bottle? And
revisit
then you watch us play, the proof's in the pudding.
For sure.
And I think that attracts, they think recruits and players gravitate to that.
Let me ask you this. Sorry, I'm going to cut you off again. I'm just excited. For your point guard, how key is that relationship with your point guard? And what do you do to kind of put a battery in that?
Well, I think part of it is you have to empower them. Literally, that's an extension of you on the floor. I remember CP saying this one time. He would get offended when he was in college if the head coach saw something and had to address something before he saw it. It's
Let
like,
me do it, coach. I got you. Type of vibe. Like I got you, coach.
I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. And empowering them to be that extension of you. Here are the keys. Here's the ball. Go run my team.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of responsibility on the shoulders of a point guard.
For sure.
In football, there's a huge responsibility on the shoulders of the quarterback.
Yep.
But the great ones, they want it.
Yep.
They want it.
So
Give me the ball at 2 in the afternoon. I'll give it back to you at 4.
I was balancing through my time being a point guard because I had this IQ for the point guard position. And I seen how Chris Paul did it, and Rondo did it, and Peyton. I seen how they did it, but I couldn't be the guy to go guard the other team's best ball handler like he could and like the rest of those guys could. So I'm like, I'm not a point guard, right? And then I had to balance out scoring and watching these guys score the ball from the shooting guard position and the point guard be the point guard from the point guard position. And I'm like this in between. But I'm like, how can I balance that? And I had my best year of my career. They would argue it, but in Brooklyn when I was running a team, but I felt like a shooting guard. Like I came to the game being able to be capable of the best scorer on the floor, but also the passes that I'm gonna make, I'm passing guys open.
Yeah.
Your point guard's not doing that. So it was a balance of recognizing what I was capable of and just settling in that. And as I've been in the league and we play 80 plus games a year, I get to practice it. And you notice kids in college and in high school, if you don't make it to the league, you might not get to practice that if you're a tweener. You have to be versatile, one, but you tweener at that position, point guard, shooting guard, can pass, but can score. That turns a lot of people off because you're usually short and undersized doing that, or you usually can't shoot being an oversized point guard that can pass. And it's like, I'm both. But I'm not guarding nobody at the same time. So how can I find a way to be valuable on the floor? And that was my balance throughout my career, just balancing. And if you give me that ball the last 2 minutes of the game, no matter how many turnovers, I'm a risk taker. I'm Jameis Winston. You don't like him, but you can love him too. And I just developed that confidence of getting the ball, controlling the game the last 2 minutes of the game. If that's a point guard or if it's a shooting guard, I'm gonna make the best play, the right play. And it is the hardest thing in my career, finding that balance, man. So a lot of credit to the CPs of the world that inspire me, Rondos of the world that inspire me, because they taught me just both lanes of it, you know.
It goes
And
back to being who
turnovers.
you are because, you know, there's different ways to do it.
Yeah.
You have floor general type point guards. You know, you have ones that are extremely versatile, and you do it as well as anybody in the world.
Have to
You score
learn.
when you have to score, you distribute, you have to distribute. And it's still funny that you said, man, when I gave those 5 things and you said, well, I wasn't tough, maybe by the norm, maybe by the world's definition of toughness,
exactly.
but like, give me that guy that wants to make the play
I'm telling you.
when it matters the most.
I had it. It's just the eye test, when you came to my practice and watched me, you'd be like, get on the floor. He doesn't want to rebound. Like, I just remember my coach tearing me up, man. He, in practice, and he would tell the other guard, pick him up full court. Let's see what he does now. He would come at me, like,
Right.
gang up against me. And I remember my college coach coming to practice, and he was like, you know why I love you, man? I was like, just Dad. I'm like, he's like, he mothered you all practice. And you just smiled, and you just kept going, and it never fazed you. And I was just like, because I know me. I know I ain't doing that.
Right.
I can.
Right.
But, like, it just, I don't know. It was a balance of.
Yeah, I mean, I've
figuring
coached guys in my career that, like, you didn't see truly who they were in practice. Some
At
guys,
all.
to play at their best, had to be that way every day. We had a little dude. He's 5'4", one of the nastiest, toughest game competitors I've ever seen. Ended up the all-time leading scorer in the history of the school at Winthrop, a kid named Keon Johnson. He scored 40, I think it was 38, I think it was 40 or 38 on Illinois his senior year at Illinois, and we beat them. Scored over 2,400 points, but you never saw it in practice. You never saw it, man, when them lights came on.
Yeah.
And you know what?
There's opposites.
That's fine.
There's opposites too, though.
When that lights, yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
that
guys
are great practice guys, when those lights come on, they're not the same.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I'd rather be the other guy, to be honest.
Coach, I feel like sitting here, I became a better person, just kind of chopping up with you. I feel like I could sit around and just be a sponge all day and just be around you, and I feel like that's just the type of guy you are. But I know you're a busy guy, so we can't take too much more of your time. But the last thing I have is just like, you got a city out here that's proud to say they're from Louisville. You got a lot of people that are fans of this program and everything. Is there anything you want to say to them about just what you've got going on here?
First of all, I am so proud to be the head coach at Louisville. And I understand the gravity, I understand the weight, I understand the significance of my role in this city, and I understand that. They have welcomed me with open arms, right? Like when this job opened up, it's one of the best jobs in the country, and there's 8 million names, very powerful names that came up, and I'm blessed to be the one that got this job, and they have embraced me.
Deserve it.
They made my family feel very, very special. So for that, I want to thank the city. Obviously, I know what my job is.
And I know what this city is like, and the impact that the impact that happens in this city when Louisville basketball is really, really good. I get that. And I can assure everybody out there that's listening, I stare at the ceiling at night visioning what that's going to look like when Peyton Siva was out there, and this thing is rolling, and there's 22,000 seat people at the Yum Center. Like, they may think they want that bad. They don't want it near as bad as I do. We're going to work our tails off to get there.
Dude,
I'm blessed to be here. Thankful. I'm thankful to you guys. We say never delay gratitude in our program. I said that to the campers. I say it to our players every day. Thank you. It's an honor to be with such an accomplished player.
Right back at you.
I admire what you're doing from a business standpoint with this podcast, partnering with some great people and some of these initiatives for kids. That's special. You don't have to do all that. You're making a difference, so thank you.
No, of course. This was great, man. Look, I want to go dive on the ball. Oh, now take a charge. I'll do charge
I don't care if
drills.
you don't do that. Just be great when the lights come on.
Come on, man. You know I will. Can't turn that off.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Appreciate you, man. Give me some love. Oh, this was great, dude.
Appreciate y'all, man.
Appreciate that.